As you know, I am Tina Shayani. I am your host here, the founder of this group, as well as the head coach at T-Shay Coaching, where we help people attract and build lasting, loving relationships. I'm so happy to welcome you here today. So, I was away last week and I missed being here live with you. I was away with my family. I was with my oldest daughter, Gabby, my husband, and my parents. So I've always thought about this idea that each person has a certain happiness set point. It's almost like having a thermostat that is dialed into a certain level of happiness, and we can go up and we can go down. But if something really amazing happens, we are a little bit happier, or maybe we're a lot happier. If something terrible happens, we we go lower than that set point. Maybe we go into misery even. But eventually, after a relatively short period of time, we come back to that set point. So while I was away, I read a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. He's a very interesting author, and what I like about his style is that he uses a lot of examples and stories, so we get to really understand the concepts that he's talking about instead of just in theory. So what he says, which was new for me, he talks about this thermostat and how we all have this certain place where we are comfortable, right? And he says that that thermostat is set for us as young children. We learn from our environment, we learn from our teachers and our parents and people in our household how happy we should be. And we have that set point and we keep going with it for the rest of our lives. What the author Gay Hendricks talks about is a glass ceiling, and he talks about how we reach that glass ceiling, what we do when we reach that glass ceiling, and how to transcend that ceiling. So what happens when something in life happens that's good? Let's say we enter into a new relationship and it's going really well, and our happiness set point is the thermostat, the temperature of our happiness is going above that set point. It's going beyond that glass ceiling. What do we do without knowing that this is what we're doing? We sabotage. We sabotage the situation. And once he said it, I started to see it everywhere. I started to see it in other people, and I started to see it in myself. So what is it things that we do to self-sabotage? We start to worry about hypothetical things. Well, I'm here and I'm having a good time and things are going well, but what if this happens? What if that happens? What if this doesn't happen? So we invent all of these things for ourselves to bring us down, to bring us back down to that set point. Don't be too happy because all of these things could go wrong, and we do it without realizing it. What other things do? We put down the things that are good. When something good happens, we hyper focus on what's bad. Instead of appreciating what's good, we put our focus on the things that are not perfect. And once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. What else do? We pick arguments. If we are in a relationship and it's going well, we, without realizing it, pick arguments with our significant other. And it's not only us that does it, our partner may be doing the same thing. But once we realize what we're doing, once we realize what's happening, that changes everything. So I mentioned that I was away with my parents and my husband and my daughter, and we were away for a week and we had a great time. And my husband is amazing. He is just like one of my parents' children. Everybody got along so well. And when we were packing up to leave, I felt myself wanting to pick on him. Why are you packing this like this? Why did you do that? Why did you do this? What was I doing? I was sabotaging the situation. I was taking this really happy, great experience, and I was going to end it with an argument. Not a fight, but just as a nitpicking argument. And I said, wow, why am I doing this? So what? Let him pack it in the wrong place. Who cares? I'm glad that he's packing something. But it was me reaching my upper limit of happiness, so I was going to diminish it. I was going to sabotage the situation by being nitpicky and picking a fight. So you see how it's very subtle and it's very difficult to see when you don't know that it's there, but it's really incredible. The other thing that we do to kind of sabotage our own happiness or to keep ourselves below that glass ceiling is our inability to accept compliments. When somebody tells you something good, when someone compliments you, how instinctively do we jump in there and put a disclaimer? Well, I got it on the sale rack. Well, it doesn't fit me like it used to. Well, I gained 10 pounds. Well, we always have a disclaimer that we put on a compliment. We are so bad at accepting compliments when the proper response to a compliment is thank you. So it's very interesting. When you see these things at play, then you can identify them and you can see what is going on. And when we recognize it, then in the moments that we are doing or about to do this act of self-sabotage, we can catch ourselves, and it's almost comical. You have to also not take yourself so seriously. You could beat yourself up and be like, oh, there I go again, sabotaging my own happiness, and you can beat yourself up about it, or you can just kind of laugh and then take a different approach. And it's so interesting. Look at the life that you live through this lens. And sometimes it's much easier to see it in other people. And I'm not asking you to look at it and be judgmental of other people, but it's easier to recognize it and in other people. And from there we can learn and then reflect on our own lives and what we are doing to see what things that we are doing. But often it's very easy to see in others. And when we begin to identify it in other people, then we can turn and look at ourselves and say, what are some things I have done to prevent myself from going beyond my happiness set point? And when we do that, it's very, very easy to see. I worked with a client once that she was in a relatively happy marriage that she single-handedly destroyed. She had come into the marriage with, and again, this is not judgment, I'm telling the story to illustrate the point of what was going on. And I'm not telling you the story based on my own judgments, but based on the story that she told me. She told me that she has a loyal husband who is faithful. She came into the marriage with 2 children that he adopted and is very close with, and the oldest son is now working in his business with him. They have a daughter together that they both love very much. He is financially stable and generous, and he does well. He provides for his family well. He includes her 2 older children in the family finances, but she also came into the relationship with, I forget, the couple of $100,000 that he invested for her. Well, what happened to the investment? The investment went south, and that money was mostly lost. So this is what she chose to hang on to. And I asked her, I said, did he do this on purpose? Did he purposely choose an investment that was going to go south? Did he lie to you and do something else with the money? And she said, no, he thought it was a good investment and it just wasn't. And she couldn't let this go, despite all the other good things that she had. So in the end, we worked together a few times, and then I heard through the grapevine that she was in a bitter divorce. But look, she had this good life, but she chose to put her focus on this negative thing that happened, and she destroyed everything else. She destroyed the relationship for herself. She caused so much chaos and heartache for herself, her husband, and her children. And all she had to do was let go of this thing that happened and learn to move past it and appreciate what was good in the relationship. So it's very interesting how you can see this sabotage. She had all of these good things, but she destroyed it because she could only focus on this one negative thing that happened that he didn't do on purpose. I hope that illustration is clear, but there are so many things, big and small, that we do. When you're having a good time, do you start telling yourself about past stories that were not so good, about bad things that happened to you, and all the could have beens, the should have beens, and the what ifs? This is how we bring ourselves down to be below that glass ceiling. But once we bring the light of awareness to our own actions, to our own thoughts, they basically just disappear. Once we understand what we're doing, we can learn to raise that thermostat and be a little bit happier and a little bit more joyful today than we were yesterday. We can't go from 50 degrees to 90 degrees in one fell swoop, but we can go from 50 degrees to 55 degrees, and slowly we can get to a higher level of happiness. And this applies to every single human being. It's not just to the people that are in a place of depression or having difficulties in life. Every person, no matter how happy or successful they are, can be a little bit happier, can be a little bit more joyful, can experience a little bit more success, can do something great that feels good. But we have to allow ourselves to feel that way. The other thing that we do, and the other kind of reason that we self-sabotage, is because we feel guilty for having a good life. Did you ever have that older person in your life that would tell you, oh, there are children starving in Africa, finish your food? I had an uncle that would do that to me because I ate very, very tiny amounts. I had a little itty bitty stomach. And he would always tell me how there are children starving in Africa. But what was he doing? He was telling me, look how blessed you are, but in a way that was to make me feel guilty, that I should feel bad, that I should have all these blessings. But if you feel bad about it, it doesn't help the people that don't have. It just ruins it for you. I had a client that inherited a large sums of money, which, like, how could that be a bad thing? But she told me flat out, she goes, well, I have this really great thing. How can I also expect to have a great relationship? I have enough goodness. I don't deserve more. And once it all came out that this is what she was doing and this is why she couldn't have a relationship, everything changed for her. And it was so amazing because now she gave herself permission to have both, to have the financial abundance and have the relationship, that it doesn't have to be one or the other, and that we shouldn't feel guilty for the good that we have. Rather than feeling guilty and diminishing it and using it for our misery, if we appreciate it and we build on it and we allow ourselves to be happy and to be joyful, there's nothing wrong with that. That is the whole point of goodness. Can you share your goodness and bring it to other people? Sure. You're welcome to do that. That's something helpful. But diminishing it for yourself and using the goodness in your life to create guilt and misery for yourself doesn't help anybody. It does no good in the world. So I invite you, and I'm going to keep doing it with myself, to take a look at what you're doing. Where is your happiness set point? And what itty bitty things are we doing to diminish that? What are we doing? What are our reactions? What are our thought patterns? And they usually do exist in a pattern. So what are we doing? Are we not going for that next level thing? Are we trying to not shine, to keep ourselves small so that we don't become happier than that certain level that we feel that we are meant to be, that we're kind of pre-programmed for? So let's look at it as a pre-programming. It's not written in stone. It can be changed. But the only way that it can be changed is if we are aware that it's there and we are aware of what's happening. Because without that awareness, there's nothing we can do. And people say, well, this is the way I am. And if you make that "this is the way I am" statement, that's great. This is the way you are today. But is this where you want to be and who you want to be in the future, tomorrow, in 6 months? And you know what? The truth is that it's the way you are now, but it doesn't have to be that way. It is pliable. There is such a thing as neuroplasticity. Your thoughts have the ability to change, and you are in charge. It is very easy to be a victim and say, well, this is the way it is. A victim, again, has no control. But the truth is that you have so much power. And right now, if you are saying, that's the way it is, that's the way I am, that's the way I was raised, you are using your power to stay where you are, to plant your feet firmly in where you are, instead of using your power to move forward. So I invite you to take a look at your upper limit of happiness. Look at a time, think of a time that you were super happy, that things were going well. What did you do to keep yourself from getting happier, from being better? I know a man that destroyed his entire career. He had a great career, a great family, and he destroyed all of it because he wasn't comfortable being happy. He didn't know how to do it. He was much more comfortable being miserable and having things to complain about. And it's normal, but it's not who I want to be. And I am working towards letting go of those upper limits and raising my own thermostat. And I invite you to do this with me. And really take a look at your own life. Take a look at the people around you and identify the upper limits. Look at situations where you or a friend or a colleague or family member, whoever, reached that upper limit, and what did they do? Look at their method of self-sabotage and let's stop doing it. This is how we become better. This is how we become happy. And this is how we build better relationships and how we call better experiences into our lives. I hope that this was helpful. If you are watching on replay, please leave a comment. If you have questions, please let me know. If there is a particular topic you would like to have discussed here,